First-time author Haji Mohamed Dawjee shares a collection of essays in an offering she titled Sorry, Not Sorry, Experiences of a Brown Woman in a White South Africa, set to spark heated conversations about race, racism, feminism, patriarchy and homosexuality. The book is a narration of Haji's intimate, funny yet heartbreaking circumstances of living as a woman of color in post-apartheid South Africa. And to take this conversation further, let's now chat to Haji, who joins us now from our studios in Point. A very good morning to you, Haji. Thank you so much for joining us and welcome.
Hi, morning. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Now, we've been seeing more and more people talking and sharing similar experiences. So let's talk about why you saw it befitting to write this book.
I just think the book is part memoir and part like just observation. So I just think as a writer in the media, I just got to a point where I felt that a lot of these stories had common ground with a lot of, similar people and race relations and that kind of thing. So there was a mood for it to sort of happen. And I guess it happened at the right time, yeah.
You refer to yourself as a brown woman in a white South Africa. Talk to us about this particular fact.
I've actually been asked that question a lot, and I think there's this thing in South Africa right now that's going on where everyone's trying to sort of assert their identities and define it and that kind of thing. And I think I just have to be clear, it's not because, there needs to be a separation between brownness and blackness constitutionally or anything like that. I think constitutionally, yes, we are all black. But I do feel like, there's this need to sort of adopt and appropriate cultures and also appropriate races. And so I felt like asserting a brownness was very important just because my experience is not the same as a black experience, and a black person's experience is not the same as a brown experience. And it's quite disrespectful when other people of color and brown people sort of appropriate black people's experiences and the black culture. So I wanted to draw not a divide, but just a discrepancy between that.
Yeah, and I suppose it's bound to ruffle so many feathers. Now, in a chapter titled Dear Diary, you narrate how you battled with mental illness at a young stage, or at a young age rather. While writing this chapter, you may have to relive, and reflect on that particular circumstance.
That was a very difficult chapter to write. Like, I had to go back and forth with a lot of things in that chapter, just because I think it's in many ways, quite graphic and quite revealing. But it did, you do have to kind of, when you write a chapter like that, and I'm sure this is the same for any writer when they write anything, you do kind of have to start reliving certain things and re-remembering certain things, if that makes sense. And then you sort of go back to it and you go like, wow, like, should I not put this in? But I did try and make the chapter as real as possible, just because I know that in many, in races other than the white race, like, mental illness is not often recognized, and especially in religious cultures, you're always told to sort of pray the depression away and that kind of thing. So I wanted to make it as clear and as almost harsh as possible, just to draw people into that world and let them know that this is a lived reality of many people.
This book is described as funny, as painful, yet honest. And you put yourself out there by sharing your personal and most intimate experiences. Now, given your religious background, Haji, don't you think you would be subjecting yourself to more public scrutiny?
Sure, but that's the risk. I think that's the risk any writer takes, or any journalist for that matter. I think you do have to get to a point where you can't be precious, not about yourself or about your work, and you just have to separate something. And I think when you write something, you do have to make peace with the fact that once you've written it, it doesn't belong to you anymore. So I think with anything, there will always be scrutiny and criticism and that kind of thing. But I think the way I've lived my life has always been sort of in contradiction or even maybe opposition to a lot of things that are either cultural or religious that I don't agree with. So I think this book is just an extension of that, and is very much, there are very much universal things in it that other people like myself can relate to.
Just reading this book, I was laughing at some point, I was saddened at some point, and I quite disagreed and agreed with some of the points articulated in this book. So what is it that you want your readers to take away from this?
I think exactly the reaction that you had. I don't think, I think when writers write a book, people often think, oh, you're trying to change my mind, you're trying to bring me to your side. We recently did a piece on like homosexuality in Islam, and I got a lot of flack from the Muslim community because they were like, you just want us to think that homosexuality is okay. And it's actually not that. Like, I think the point of the book and the point of that piece and the point of a lot of other things is just that you don't have to change your mind. Like, I'm not asking you to change your mind. I'm not even asking you to like the book. I'm asking you to really like test yourself. And I think especially with like white people, because the political and race stuff in there will be very difficult for them to read. I'm asking you to test yourself and engage yourself and push yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit. And at the end of the day, whatever you take away from it is all that I can hope for, whether that's positive or negative or anything, yeah.
Haji, I like the way you wrote the book with so much tact and so much, you're so careful about it, given the sensitivity of some of the issues that you articulated. Thank you so much for chatting to us this morning. Well, speaking to us about a debut book titled Sorry, Not Sorry, Experiences of a Brown Woman in a White South Africa is journalist and writer Haji Mohamed, who joined us from our Sea Point studios.